very nice for a change to not to talk about real options or idiosyncratic risk, and just talk about something nice. Okay. The second reason is that if you like you listen to, for example, Brett's presentation, or you know he did very well in his first teaching. I'm pretty sure you got the best evaluation possible. And I'm as a junior researcher, first of all, and as a kind of as a non-native speaker, I had troubles with my first class, but then I did very well eventually. So I have something to share about this, and I thought it would be useful. Okay. So learn from my mistakes rather than making your mistakes. So just a hard fact of life: most of you are gonna fail in your first class teaching. Just, I don't know, maybe because I started in Hong Kong and everyone failed there, or maybe it's different in different places, but it just happens, and it's okay. So as long as, of course, you will do well in the end, but there is an expense of extra stress, more time, less research, you know, you wouldn't avoid it completely, but you can minimize. So I will talk about some kind of misconceptions, people that think in the wrong way about teaching, main mistakes that in particular I made and I had to correct, and some tricks that people use and they work. Okay, so first of all about misconception. The first thing that I hear is that, okay, look around, most of us are not from United States and we speak different languages. I don't speak English, that's a question to me, I don't speak English very well, I'm unable to teach. That's not true in the big scheme of things. So first of all, most of us are international, and students and faculty, everyone can try to adapt to listen to accents and learn, correct if you make mistakes. Over time, it's just a really secondary or third degree issue that goes away over time. Okay. Second misconception. Everyone says, when you didn't get there yet, but once you start teaching, everyone says, well, I got the wrong type of class to teach. It's well known that if you teach MBAs are almost non-existent now. Or if you teach like masters, evening master, have you ever taught like as assistant, evening MBA or something? Like those people that are as interested in science as you are like in baseball probably. so they really, I mean, it's just a fact of life. They came and they, like one of the most common things that you would see that they raise their hands like, Professor, I paid $30,000 for my degree. I'd like you to do this and this and this. It happens. So what's going on here? So first of all, if you're given this class to teach, then all likelihood is that the chair of your department believes that you actually can handle it. And if not, then they will adjust. They will say, well, he had to teach difficult class, so we'll adjust your evaluation. It's true. Now, second, you just teach those classes differently. They're also interested in their own way because those people have experience. So instead of kind of sometimes imposing, like I'll tell you about kappa, you have to believe me about the betas, just ask them. Most of them already have experience. They will tell you, like, I use this model and I use that model. It's actually interesting to learn. So do it differently, okay? Now, three, students say, the way to get good evaluation, because in the end, everyone boils down to what they think to good evaluation, is just to be nice. Okay. So being nice and giving good grades only works temporarily, as I understand, and it puts you in it kind of wedges you between two problems. First of all, you're too nice to students, so they don't do anything in the end, or they just expect that they'll pass. And second, you're running into trouble with your own department, because the dean will eventually come to you and say, like, how come you have all A's on your class? Okay. No questions so far? So now, I divided my kind of advices and comments into two categories. First of all, things that are known to work. Everyone knows about them, and I'll just remind you. So number one thing from what works, and everyone will tell you, is organization. And the secret here, you are, of course, a teacher in a class. You are teaching, you've given knowledge, you are a researcher, you're talking about the topic, but you're also a manager. You are the one, think about how you take classes now. You're looking at your teacher, you expect that he or she will do everything to organize the class. That means having lecture notes, printouts, homeworks, solution to homeworks, office hours, teaching assistant sessions, any problems with textbooks, with rooms, with rescheduling. So they expect that all of this is done on time, and that's kind of the main. So I think once it's the easiest way to fail the teaching for the class is just to appear that you're not in control. Period. Okay. Second, consistency. What students hate, I think, is they don't want to be confused. They want to come to class, they expect this, and they see this to some extent. So what can get them confused? First of all, some large radical changes. You suddenly, you start class, first half of the class is very easy and then very difficult. Or you talk about one topic and you get some students come and say we already did it because they are out of 100 students, also more experienced students. They already take this class. We already know about this. And you're like, oh, okay, I will just cut this part and I'll just tell you. So basically, if you start, for example, with good example, you start with discounted cash flows teaching corporate finance, use the discounted cash flows, try to extend it. Now the discounted cash flows with WACC discount instead of regular, and now incorporate options, and now so they have to build along the same line. Okay. Finally, from general advice, the class has to be interesting. But unlike probably you think about this, that to make it interesting, you have to make it entertaining. I see it like this: you have to make it interesting for yourself, first of all. So that's what I'm trying to do. When I'm teaching class, I'm trying to find something to make me really interested in reading it over and kind of telling it to students. So obviously it's easier to do with doctoral classes. It's harder to do with undergraduate. But even then, you can pick up new textbook, write some new lecture notes, talk about, insert 3 slides about your research. Like you got to, some adjustment. Talk to them about your research. They're sometimes interested. Sometimes not. Tricks. Okay. So tricks, I was taught, so I went to a teaching seminar after my, let's not talk about my first experience of teaching, but after that I went and took teaching class from very experienced guy. And some of the tricks come from there, some of the tricks I had to figure out. So very well-known trick is so-called hooks. Did you hear about it? So quick example, you teach in a class on IPO, okay? So instead of telling them like IPOs and this thing and there is a return and so on, so I just open up the first slide and tell them, listen, in Hong Kong, the first year IPO return is on average 18%. So if you invest in every time you see an IPO invest, you get plus 18%. By the end of the year, you're a millionaire. And then I ask them, what's wrong with them? Of course, they don't know. So they have to wait until the middle or end of the lecture when they actually tell them why it doesn't work. So I get them interested, they understand what's going on, and then you resolve. Second trick. I never tried it myself, but people tell me all the time. Make the first class super difficult. so they come, let's say, you just teach in derivatives. Instead of telling them it's binomial model, start the first class with partial differential equations. So if the people are there by accident, the next class you have 2/3 of your class, but they're willing to learn. Feedback. So that I found works really, it's super important. It works very, very well. Just don't be lazy. Give them every 3 weeks, every 4 weeks. Give them some form to fill. Let them complain about whatever they complain. It kills 2 things. You learn what's wrong with your teaching. They get to complain. Okay. Even if you just kind of immediately put it aside and not even do anything about it, that will make it feel good. 7 deadly sins. So I think I thought off the top of my head of things that you can do wrong, and deadly sins are gluttony and greed and so on. But for teaching, there are no-nos. Running class late. So remember yourself being an undergraduate student. How did you like when an instructor kind of takes another 15 minutes at the end of the class? It's terrible. Same thing now. So when you teach in the class, it feels totally normal that you should finish the topic. Students hate it. Printed notes every time. I never do it. I found that you give students printed notes, majority of them will just look at the notes instead of writing. When they write, it's a completely different story. Trying to give examples of notes without notes or teach without notes. So I've seen many of the young professors who don't yet have this experience. They will kind of start with a lecture and somebody in the audience asks questions He's like, okay, I'll explain to you. I know how it works. Let me change this, especially if it's a mathematical model. And he starts writing on the side of the board, and then just another 15 minutes, another 30 minutes, and he's trying to think. I had a teacher in my graduate school who was teaching continuous time finance, and we asked him a really hard question, and he was standing there silent, thinking about the answer for maybe like 20, 25 minutes, and we didn't know what to say. So because he was trying to calculate it on the side of the board. Never did it. You should not ignore questions from the audience because they try. It's a good way to communicate. Likewise, you want to ask them questions. So to make sure that they understand, best way is turn around in like random time and say, Mr. Johnson, like what do you think the next formula will be, or what do you think this means? I've seen people canceling classes or just giving them to TA to teach. Like especially more senior people, and I always see that it eventually results in some kind of problem. So sometimes there is emergency and you need to like reschedule or give it, but it's just not it's not okay usually. It's a problem. Don't help too much on the homework. The more you help on the homework, the more people come, and eventually there is no boundary. You start kind of start solving homework with a student, and then he'll ask like, what's next, and then until you finish the homework. Okay. So, we're done with advices. Now there are some specific situations that I have seen. Okay, first of all, bad apples. So this, I've seen it again happen to several people. So you teach in large class, usually undergraduates. And let's say you are like a young lady, so like easily intimidated. There are 2 or 3 people in the back of the class who are usually not too good, but not too bad students. They want to learn, but they don't want to do too much. And they start kind of bullying the teacher. They would start kind of like saying, but they will meet you after class or before class, and they will have some say it's a problem and we don't understand. You're not organized here and there. So this is very important to address it proactively and talk to them and do something about it for the following reason. Because these people, like out of 100 people class, the people will talk to everyone else. And when they kind of start spreading this message, the teacher is not, you gave us, it's very common, you gave us like an assistant professor to teach, we deserve more, and so on and so on and so on. So even though you did nothing wrong initially, you may fail the class just because of this situation. So you need to identify the problem and talk to those guys. Also common situation, I saw it in Arizona. You start teaching the class and you figure out that either concurrently the class that taught by another faculty does the same thing, or even more likely the previous class did pretty much the same thing that you do. So there is like we have 100, 200, 300 level class, you get to 300 level class and you figure out it's the same textbook and everything else that they did is pretty much the same. So you need to check with about the previous classes, need to make some changes and restructure in such a way that you tell students, okay, I will review now what you probably know, because not all of them will know. I will review this part, and then we will, don't worry, we'll get to some more complicated, insert a couple more complicated topics. They actually like when there is some repetition, but there is a new stuff. So, I don't know what to do about the next one. I just put it as a question. What to do about electronics in the class? How many of you have cell phones now in your hands and on the table? So I have no idea, because students eventually, especially if they're not too interested, if it gets into mathematics, they just start checking the emails. The only thing I know what to do is that if I see they do too much, I start calling them. I start asking like repeatedly, I would ask like you help me out to solve this, help me out to. So eventually the student kind of knows that there is a reason why I call them. I don't know if something else works. I think it's much more general question than teaching now. Reconsidering grades on exam, eventually you will have students come and ask them to change grades on exams. I think what people say, you need to have syllabus policy about the regrades. For example, I ask students come and write a hard copy of the note, kind of why do you think the grade is incorrect? Then I kind of collect all the city grades and I look at them, and if there is something obviously wrong, I will change it. If not, if this is kind of borderline case, I would say, it's consistent with us. Because once you start changing it, like you'll have more people and this person will come again. So you have to make it right if it was wrong, but no more than that. Okay, very quickly, because we're supposed to talk about teaching versus research. So what about teaching versus research? You will be surprised that many professors say they do more research when they teach. So when they get into schedule and everything that they involve, they actually can do at least as much as they do in other. By the way, you try to put all your teaching, if you can, in the semester or even half semester in some schools. So then you can have more time for travel or to concentrate on your devices if you have. Then, okay, what about the weights on research and teaching? Always keep in mind that if you go to a research-oriented department, then you will be evaluated based on research, first of all. So then, like, think about the TOEFL versus GRE test that you have to take when entering the school. The TOEFL has to be good, okay? The GRE or GMAT score has to be outstanding, right? But nobody would dismiss you just because your TOEFL is not 99%, right? So it's kind of similar with teaching. Teaching has to be good, right? Okay? If it falls below, you will have huge troubles, even if you're genius. But teaching has to be good, research has to be outstanding, and this is the benchmark. Overall, expect to spend more time on your first class. It's difficult, but it will pass, and next class will usually be easier. Many of the problems are avoided if you work proactively, if you prepare better, if you read the textbook kind of in the summer before teaching, if you kind of think about the structure. And if you're now in the doctoral program, try to teach your own class if it's possible, or at least teaching assistant, you will see many of these issues coming up. Thanks.